Hello, good morning. It's 5th of November 2020 and normally Cotswold Fireworks on this day would be extremely busy preparing shows and setting up for the displays that we'd normally host at many of the schools in and around the Cotswolds. Unfortunately, the COVID pandemic does mean that we are stuck in a situation where every display we had for the week of November 1st to 7th has been cancelled. So we're left in a very relaxed situation. The sun is shining, it's a beautiful crisp day for fireworks, and it's the first day in 25 years that me personally is not setting a firework off. I'll be sat at home with our new puppy and watching them out the window, which will be an experience that I've not experienced for many years. Anyway, I thought that I'd take this opportunity to talk about Cotswold Fireworks very quickly, very briefly, about how we came about 25 years ago, or 24 years ago. 1998 was when the company was incorporated, but some of the people involved with Cotswold Fireworks have been around a lot longer than that. We were involved in letting fireworks off and being enthusiastic about what fireworks were available from the public point of view, when you could buy a lot more fireworks in the shops than you can now. Certainly ones that were a lot more powerful, more dangerous. Those were banned in 1996 and became a professional firework, which was a time and a period when we looked at starting Cotswold Fireworks and moving into a more professional manner, for the primary reason that we wanted to continue setting those larger fireworks off. As I said, they had become unavailable to the public, and we wanted to continue. So one way was to set up a company, and once you set a company up and you're paying the insurances and the explosive licenses and the rent on your storage containers, you need customers to obviously help pay for one or few of those aspects of the company. So we'll just go back a few years and we'll talk about what we had as fireworks as children and what we now use as fireworks in the displays for your weddings and your town shows and New Year's Eve parties that we absolutely love putting on if we're allowed to do it. So just change the camera angle and we'll look again. Thank you. Okay, we're back. It's a strange camera angle. I want to show the fireworks off rather than me, but it does feel like I'm about to start a Sooty and Sweep show. Again, that's an old memory from the 70s. But it does kind of lead into the fact that the fireworks we're talking about now are really essentially from the 70s. So if we check on these, standard fireworks, golden plume, yellow zodiac, there we go, yellow zodiac, and red zodiac. Hopefully that's within the camera angle. That, in comparison to my hand, was the size of fireworks that we had in the 70s and into the early 80s where I lived in Swindon. That was your common style of garden firework that you had, manufactured in the UK and sold. Where was this? Huddersfield, standard fireworks in Huddersfield. Garden firework, a 5-metre safety distance, so covered most houses, or should we say back gardens in and around the estates in Swindon where we lived. And these are just, they tend to be fountains or small gerb flare kind of effects. Obviously a yellow zodiac is just a yellow plume. Golden plume is probably about a foot high, 2 foot high. Golden shower of sparks, and red zodiac, quite rightly, was just red. One of the popular ones from standard was a traffic light, which of course changed from red, green and yellow. But those were the smallest kind of fireworks that I tended to remember, certainly in the 70s when my parents set them off for us. We were lucky, we would get the standard fireworks Roman candle. The beauty of these Roman candles, that one's coloured stars. The other design was similar. This may have been golden flittering stars or silver glitter. They tended to put 2 in each box. One was coloured, one was glittering. And these are free shot. So once you light the blue touch paper at the top, at a few seconds later you would get a small fountain eruption, not a very big one, probably a couple of inches high, which would burn down the tubes, and when it hit to the star and the launch powder, it would launch the star into the sky, and would do that 3 times before going out. So that was my first experience of Roman candles, or shooting stars, that we had back in 70s and 80s. Bangers were banned in possibly the late 80s, early 90s. There was certainly a lot of press about people being injured from others throwing bangers at each other. It was quite common in and around the schools. I certainly remember my time as a school kid, going to the shops on the way home and buying bangers and pretending to be 16 years old at the time, and getting away with it as well, surprisingly. Mind you, as an adult now, I find it hard to gauge the age of teenagers walking down the street, so I can imagine that back in those days it was hard enough for the shopkeepers trying to gauge my age. Obviously, firework age limits now are 18 or above. I certainly know most fireworks shops would prefer to see you as age 21 or above, certainly with the types of fireworks we're selling. When bangers disappeared, air bombs came out. This one's a standard one. Nice spike, stick it in the ground, light the touch paper, a very small fountain for a couple of seconds of beautiful sparks, and then it would launch a small bombette into the sky, and in this effect was just a large flash and a loud bang. Very popular, expensive, certainly more expensive than the packs of bangers we used to buy. I used to get 8 in a pack of bangers, I believe, and or 6, depending on whether it was Standard or Brock's or one of the other manufacturers. And these came in packs of 4, if I remember rightly. I suppose now we would call these a single shot, because it is a small ignition, it's a small fountain, and then a single firing of a single bombette. We use a lot of these, obviously without the fountain on the top, and I'll show you those in a minute. But this was our first experience of what we would call a single shot firework, one single effect. Air bombs may not be around anymore. They certainly don't seem to be available in shops when I take a cursory glance when going around doing my groceries. Not that I need them now, based on the kind of effects we're doing. So that's what we had as kids, or should we say our parents bought us, and then our parents let them off. They certainly wouldn't let us touch these. It was, oops, dropped one, and it certainly wasn't what we were allowed to light ourselves, although chatting to my parents and grandparents, penny bangers were extremely popular in the 40s and 50s, and an era that I missed. But I do understand that they were available to buy for the children to go out and have a play. But I'll show you what we use now in comparison to these small fountains, these small Roman candles, and this single shot. We'll have a look now at what this has replaced for us in the pro displays. Certainly a lot more dangerous, a lot more powerful. This plank of wood would not stop the kind of firework we're firing now. It would go straight through it. In fact, if I lift the plank of wood away, these are the launch tubes underneath for 125mm 5-inch shells. These are single shot varieties, so that's what our single shot has become. As I say, these are 5 inches, would easily go through this plank of wood when they're firing, so you don't want any part of your body over the top. So we don't manually fire like you would manually fire with these. We now only allow electric fire, and that's one of the conditions of the insurance on our company, electric firing only, to keep it as safe as possible. Let's stop the camera now, and I'll bring in the bigger stuff. Hello, we're back, and we're now looking at the professional side of the firework products that we can use as a pro display company that's not available for use for the public. A number of reasons it's not available for use to the public. One, it is significantly more powerful than what you can purchase in the shops. I did say previously that some of the fireworks we use will easily go through a plank of wood. For example, 1/4-inch thick plywood, even 1/2-inch thick plywood, which is pretty sturdy stuff. It will not stop the firework launching and punching a clean hole straight through the wood and to continue upwards. So I have seen personally what these fireworks would do to a brick wall if they're in the way. Spider web on the camera, just get that out of the way. So we'll look at single shots first, just to show you the differences. There are other points. These fireworks don't come with any kind of safety fuse because they're for the pros, and it's as part of our training is down to us to put our own time fuses on, or our own electric ignition to create the effects, the timing and the styles of the display. So that's one reason why they have no safety fuse. To be honest, it's the first thing we chop off and replace with our own fuse that we trust and understand is going to give us the timings in the display. So we'll look at single shots first, because it's the ones I have out already. That's what you had in the shops. The air bomb, about 3 inches high, looks like a 20mm bore, and doesn't actually give you a safety distance on this, but it's going to be 5 meters or 25 meters maximum distance for your garden, that possibly 5 or 8 meters depending on the old British standard. The new CE regulations require, I think there's like 5 meters, 8 meters, 15 meters and then 25 meters, but with public displays everything we do is at least 50 meters or further, and it depends on the caliber of the firework. So 1mm of caliber is 1 meter of safety distance is the requirements, and quite a few of the items that we're working with have 100mm caliber or bore, therefore you need 100 meters of safety distance between yourselves and the audience. So there's a single shot that you were able to buy, or possibly were able to buy in the shops, and the kind of single shots we work with are standard 30mm bore, so that's silver whistling. And as you can see, the fuses from the bottom, you actually take out the plastic and you replace that with an electric ignition device, which is an instant firing once the computer has told it to fire. So these are transported without any kind of ignition source in them. It's down to you to replace it with what you need. That's 30mm caliber. Here we have 50mm caliber. These two are Chinese manufacturer, and mass produced in the factories in China. And we do have another source. We have European market, which gives us Italian and Spanish. This one's Spanish, so this is a Spanish single shot, 45mm bore, plastic casing, so more difficult for us to recycle. And with the cardboard ones, they can go to cardboard recycling. Everything's cardboard. With plastic, we have to clean these out and pass them across to plastics recycling, if your local council will allow you to pass these onwards. Difference between Spanish and Chinese: Spanish has a more vivid colour. Their chemical compounds are much better on colour. The other difference is Spanish 10 times more expensive than Chinese, so it tends to be used at very, very special occasions, very special weddings, and of course your competitions. But these are single shots. Most of what we use is Chinese 30mm, 38mm and 50mm bore single shots, and you'll have about 100 to 150, if not more, in your local wedding display. Certainly in the wedding displays that we use around the Cotswolds, we'll easily go through 50 of these in a display. So quite a lot of prep work. So that's 50 ignitions to wire up, that's 50 cues on the computer to program in, and 50 mounting points and brackets to be wired and cable tied on the field. So time consuming to use, very spectacular effects. We'll look at Roman candles next, so let's see what we can find. Remember back, we were talking about your standard Roman candle from the 70s and 80s, free shot at 3 individual stars with a fountain in between, or 3 coloured tail comet stars. So that's your free shot that we have from the 70s and 80s. The smallest that we use is 10 shot. So this is 20mm bore as well. It has a small fuse from the top that burns down the side of the tube. There's no fountain between each of the stars. One of the reasons for that is it's cheaper, so you're not waiting for the fountain to burn out of the way before you fire the star. The audience is a lot further away, so they won't appreciate a little fountain when they're 100 meters away. So we're more interested in getting the best bang for your buck It has a small fuse that goes down the side, which is extremely cheap to produce, and a much bigger star, so we get more height, more colour and more effect for your money by removing the fountain. So English design, standard fireworks with the fountains in between the stars. Chinese design, visco fuse down the side, stars and lift charges and nothing else. So 10 shot, the smallest Roman candle we use. It's most of what we use is bundles or barrages. Oops. So quite a lot of our displays, this one's wrapped in plastic, so it's waterproof, it's ready to fire. It is hexagonal, it is 7 Roman candles. So if you can imagine 7 of these clustered together and then taped together into a bundle or a barrage, you get one of these. Each tube 8 shot firing, so that's 56 shots total. When the fuse goes into the top, it ignites all 7 tubes at the same time, and then you get 56 coloured stars or coloured comets or other effects firing into the sky. Bore on these is 12mm. It's either 12mm or 14mm, tends to be the popular bore on these bundles, and you tend to fire them in V's. It's very popular to have lovely V shapes or fleur-de-lis kind of styles or W effect firings of Roman candles. It's about 30 seconds of effect, and very useful, very good for. There's more. We've got a lot of. Obviously, it's a good day for it. It's lots of little spiders floating by, so we're having a lot of little spider webs catching on the camera as it flows by. So sorry about that. It looks nice from the sun though. So there you go. Yeah, majority of our shows will have certainly 3 or 4 different effects during the show using these bundles of Roman candles in different positions to create lovely angled effects. Very popular at schools, very quiet, used a lot in the quiet low noise displays that we use. Now the largest Roman candle is this, 47mm, again 8 shots, probably can't get it in the camera frame, there you go, how's that? 47mm, this is colourful butterfly, so it launches a fizz, I would say, of silver spinners. They're called butterflies, they're very quiet and they just fizz and move around a little bit, and then there's a coloured star on the end. There's no burst, it's a lovely quiet Roman candle. It's about 30 seconds firing duration, and the fuse is what's known as quick match that comes out the side. This is instant burning. There is no safety fuse on this, so if you were to light this, it will fire straight away. We would replace this and put electric ignition into that fuse or another kind of timing device. It's another reason it's not sold for the public. It's also, being 47mm caliber, well above what the public is allowed. I believe the public are limited to 30mm caliber, internal caliber, on any fireworks that you sell, that are sold within the shops to yourselves. So yeah, definitely a pro. Good. Obviously a lot more expensive than one of these, probably in the region of about 6 or 7 times the difference in the price. But whereas this does 56 firings, that does 8 firings. These are going to go quite high. Full size oak tree, probably 3 times the height is how we go. Is when we go out to look at hotels and they say, how high do they go? Well, if you see that tree in the distance, it'll be 3 times higher than that tree. Easily seen by members of the public and the wedding guests, and they'll be cricking their necks to see the tops. So there we go, Roman candles, and that's the largest we do. A lot noisier on launch. As I say, this is a quiet effect Roman candle, but you get a significant pop, a bit louder than a shotgun when these things launch, because of the energy that's involved in getting these out of the tube and to get them up to the height. Right, we'll move on to something we haven't mentioned at all, is rockets. Rockets are obviously popular. They're popular for the public, not so popular for the pro. Reason being is that, as we've demonstrated in daylight in previous videos, you have no idea where the rocket stick is going to go when it comes down. It's sometimes will fall like a javelin, in which case the person who's just lit the rocket is likely to get stuck. or pinned to the ground, which reminds me of the Omen film and the cross falling off the church. And or the rocket sticks will land in the crowd. What tends to happen with the sticks is when the rocket has burst and the stick is free, and with some of the rockets you're buying, the rockets themselves in the shops that you're buying are as big as this single shot device on its own, with a 6-foot long length of spruce wood as its tail. And after the rocket has done its performance and its burst, the stick will be floating away. It will start to spin, and it will act a little bit like a wing and float sideways, and you can see, if you did it in daylight, the rocket stick floating 2 or 3 field lengths away from where you launched it, and it's going to land who knows where. And it only needs you to go and look on Facebook and the news articles to see that rocket sticks will go through car windscreens, land in people's gardens, and obviously there's the subsequent injuries of landing on people that are a long way away from your event. So the pro industry, very rarely do we use rockets of anything larger than that size head with small sticks. Most of what we use that replace rockets is mortar shells. Effectively, it's a single shot. Effectively, it's like that. It's a single shot. It contains a tube that we launch the shell into, or load the shell, should we say, and then it's launched electric ignition up to anything between 300 and 800 foot high, depending on the caliber. So we'll show you some of the tubes that we use and 1 or 2 of the devices that go into the tubes, and you'll see why they're certainly not available to the public. Thank you. Right, we're back, and we were talking about what's replaced rockets in the pro side, because rockets just are too dangerous for us to launch. When we consider some of the school displays, even the weddings and the town effects, town displays will have in aspects of 1,000 fireworks, 1,000 individual cues. Probably half of those would have been rockets. And as we say, we want the big starburst in the sky that boom and a big spread of stars in that huge sphere, but we don't want to fire it from a rocket because of the stick. So what was designed, or what replaced those, is what's known as shells. I'll show you what's effectively a 6-inch shell, 150mm caliber, which then obviously requires a 6-inch tube. The cone on bottom is a lift charge, so that just contains an amount of gunpowder to launch the sphere, which is made of papier-mâché, up to about 500 foot high, maybe a bit higher, and a time fuse is burning to the middle, and then it bursts that entire sphere into a massive starburst. Is what you're used to seeing on the bigger displays, and what they do at the London Eye in London is the ones over the top. Again, super fast fuse to go down for ignition. No safety, because we again put our own ignition sources onto these shells, and when they go up, nothing will stop them. No brick wall will stop these. They'll go straight through it if you were to fire it sideways, which I don't recommend. And as I say, you do not put any parts of your body over one of these. So it's always electric ignited from a safe distance. That's 6-inch. In our weddings, certainly the weddings we're doing in the Cotswolds, your finale piece will have 1, maybe 2 of these, depending on your budget and depending on the surrounding area. So if the firing area is large enough, so we're going to need 150 meters clearance between this and the audience and the surrounds, then we do like to put a couple of these up in the finale, along with 5 inches and 4 inches and 3-inch shells. And to give you an idea on the aspect there, that's a 3-inch shell, so up to about 300 foot high, 6-inch shell. Your standard wedding's going to have about 40 or 50 of these size shells in it, which produce the large bangs in the sky with the big colour bursts, and you're normally launching these above the Roman candles that we demonstrated earlier. What do the tubes look like? There we go, 75mm 3-inch tube. Can we get that in the camera? And this one's brand new, so it's not been used at all. And we rack those in 6s, so we'll bring out a wooden rack containing 6 of these tubes that we stake down, and then individually launch individually load, should I say, the firework into the tube and put an electric igniter on the top. They're not transported to the field with them loaded, they're transported empty and everything is loaded on the day. That's 3-inch and that's 4-inch 100mm, just to give you an idea on the difference in sizing. And yes, your normal wedding's going to have 20 or 30 of this size in it to produce the finale effects, which of course we'd like to colour theme. So if you know your wedding colours, then we'll of course come along and theme the finale to your wedding colours, which always looks much better. We don't go there. I have to put gloves on for this because these tubes are a lot bigger. We can go much bigger than 4-inch and 6 inches, and I brought the tubes out as a demonstration just to show you what they look like, because some of these are a 2-man lift. There we go, 8 inches. Much bigger, much larger tube, much heavier. And you certainly know when one of these fires, it is truly like an artillery shell or a cannon firing. Massive thump in the ground, again 600 to 700 feet high before bursting, and really does wow the crowd. I should mention that 8-inch caliber fireworks and above are have classified as true explosives. So transportation of these and storage of these requires a significantly higher explosive storage license than is what's normally given by the local trading authorities. So although we have launch tubes, we don't have the product. We have the product delivered on the day, because that way it's safest and that way we don't have to store it. That's 8-inch. The largest you'll get in the UK is 16-inch, and here's what it looks like. He says trying to manhandle this tube into the camera. I should have moved the camera really, shouldn't I? But there we go. It's still wrapped, it's never been used. That is 400mm 16-inch tube. If you're lucky, there are a few companies in the country that will fire one of these at the special competitions or special occasions. If you want one of these at a wedding, probably in the region of 1,500 quid, maybe more, and possibly, if not more, a square kilometre of safety distance. So if you own an airfield and you want me to fire one of these, give me a call, I'll come up and do it. I'll just charge you for the product, because I'd love to see one of these go off. I've only ever held one, which isn't the same as letting one off, and I'll see a lot of these on video. If you really do love your fireworks and you want to see bigger than this, go to Japan. Japan will fire 48 inches. It's quite common. Handmade fireworks, beautifully made, fantastic to have a look on YouTube. It's the best place to start. Then buy a plane ticket to Japan when COVID finishes and see what they can do. But in the UK, if you're lucky, 16 inches is the largest you'll do. We've got the tube, never fired one yet. 12 inches we've done quite a few 12s. That's popular at weddings. Finish off with a 12-inch in the display at the end. It really does let you know, certainly puts you on the map. It also lets all your neighbours know. And that kind of brings us into fireworks in general. It's the 5th. Be safe. Do be considerate to your neighbours if you're letting fireworks off, and certainly neighbours that have pets. Give them plenty of notice that you're going to do it. Let them know your time you're going to finish, the time you're going to, the time you're going to start and the time you're going to finish. And if you do have any left over afterwards, I would probably not fire them, because you've already given the finish time. You don't want to overrun. You don't want to annoy the neighbours any further than what fireworks is already annoying those that are sensitive to noises. It's not just pets. There are people that are suffering from PTSD and all the other illnesses that are appearing now in this modern world. So do enjoy your fireworks. Come and see our shows if you can. We will be back. We've only rested for this week due to the restrictions on the pandemics. Our New Year's Eve shows are going. We have plenty of weddings for 2021 and all the postponements of 2020 into 2021. Historically, it's going to be our busiest year because of that. If you're interested in fireworks and would like to have a go at helping us set these up, then send us an email. We're always happy to show you what it's all about. I'll warn you now, it's not days like this. The November and winter season tends to be fields of mud, and you will come back wet, cold and aching, because the fireworks that you're loading, and this is just one, are weighty, and when you're lifting 150 of these around, you will get backache. And when you're clearing up afterwards and the audience have gone home after your 10-minute show, you've still got 2 hours of clear up and 2 hours of crawling around in the mud picking up all the debris and the rubbish. So it's not a glamorous job. However, the summer season is. You might finish early in the winter season, you'll finish a lot later in the summer season. Latest you can fire is 11 PM or just before 11 PM and finish by 11. So if you're on the other side of the country and you've cleared up, you might leave site by 1 and home by 3. It is certainly a more relaxed atmosphere in the summer. Warmer, drier, and all the summer festivals are worth getting into just to go and launch the fireworks, especially if you have a passion for it. Music and fireworks and computers, they go well together. But as I say, happy November the 5th. Remember the 5th of November. What was it? Gunpowder, treason and plot, and persecution of the Catholics, as some people tell me. We're still persecuting people now, not necessarily the Catholics, but religion hasn't really grown up even 400 years after the event. But well, you live and learn. Enjoy yourselves, be careful, and hopefully we'll see you at one of our displays. Thank you. Happy November the 5th.